Number 3 quarterback.
My number 3
is
quarterback guy, and I don't even know if I really believe that he is a first-rounder all the way. This would be edge of the first round. Really, in my perfect world, I'd go, I think he's a second-rounder, really. But this is Jaxson Dart, Ole Miss, as we know. Jaxson Dart, I mean, the guy can play. He's got a ton of reps. He knows how to play the position. You're going to see a lot of him as far as natural, smooth thrower, effortless in the pocket that way, right? He is another guy, which is I love about this draft, wants to stand there and play in the pocket, right? Stand in there and make big throws. Now, his arm is not as strong as the other guys we just talked about. Now, it's obviously not as strong as Cam Ward's, which I've told you is special. It's also not as strong as Shedeur. And within that, too, there's more effort and space needed to throw the ball hard. And that's why he would be number 3. And I think on top of that, too, would be he is a below-the-average athlete for 2025. Shedeur Sanders, I'm not saying he's a great athlete, right? But I told you, he breaks tackles. He extends plays a little bit more than you realize when you start to break him down. And he does scramble more. Jaxson Dart, there's not a lot of that. It's totally going to be in the pocket type play. Get the ball out of your hand, do that, right? So that's the big thing with Jaxson Dart overall. Right, I think the number one thing I love about his game is the amount of high-level 15 and 20-yard throws he makes, okay? Out of the guys we've talked so far, it's the slowest delivery, it's the longest delivery, and I would say he was probably the worst deep ball thrower of the group as well, right? But still, a lot of good, and a guy that you wish just some of the physical attributes were a hair better, and I think it would be a slam dunk first-rounder. And I wonder where he goes, but I do like the way he plays, and I certainly could see him being a starting quarterback in the NFL one day.
He grew up in Utah, just 21 years old, turns 22 in May, was a 2-time All-State third baseman in baseball, so some athleticism to play a multi-sport athlete. His senior year in high school, giant year, 67 touchdown passes, 4 interceptions. Now, I don't know what Utah high school football was like that year, but that's still pretty darn impressive.
Sounds suspect.
Yeah. was at USC. Started 6 games as a freshman, so highly touted, even just coming out of high school. Lincoln Riley then brought in Caleb Williams, so that's tough competition. But we have his year-by-year chart there at Ole Miss, because here's a guy who's a multi-year starter in the SEC.
Yep.
Something to be said about that.
Yep.
You see what he did this past year. Yards per pass attempt was the best of his career, and not a whole lot of interceptions, including that last year, 29 touchdowns, 6 interceptions.
No, I think that's going to be the value of Jaxson Dart, is you're going to go, damn, it's 3 years of a lot of playing against high-quality football. He knows how to play the position. He knows where hots are, right? He knows where to throw the ball away, okay? He knows a little bit situational football because he's played so much, right? I talked about his ability and his confidence, his arm and intermediate throws, I think is really impressive. He does have a variety of arm angles. He's got pretty good feet in the pocket, right? I mean, to hop around, readjust when he's got a little pressure. That was something I probably should have said more about Cam Ward, because his feet were so special in that department. But Jaxson is good at that, because Jackson's not going to scramble a lot. He's not going to get out of the pocket a whole lot and make things happen there. So he's going to need to be an elite mover within the pocket in his career. And he is pretty damn good in that. But like I said, he's a lesser athlete running the ball than what we see for 2025 football. He can get the ball out of his hand pretty quickly when he needs to on slants and short game, but again, it's not as good as Cam or Shedeur Sanders, right? I like his arm mechanics, other than like what was I going to say? Sorry. I like his arm mechanics, but when he looks for more, his arm does get elongated. When he wants to throw the ball down the field, he wants to make a power 20-yard out route or whatever, the ball goes behind him more and becomes more of a, I need some space to throw the football, where the other guys can just go, and throw it. His becomes all of a sudden a little bit of a wind-up. There are a lot of throws down the field where you go, oh, man, like that, he was open. You can't miss that. You can't underthrow it. You can't make a jump ball, right? Those were some of the negatives, certainly. But as a whole, he's pretty tough. He's a good decision maker, and the processing in the pocket is something you get to see a lot. And again, that's where I think NFL people are going to like him. That's going to be the thing that's going to be close between him and Shedeur, is because Shedeur, because the protection was so bad, and I think he got flawed by that, you could go through a game and only see 3 or 4 plays where you go, oh, he went 1, 2 to 3, right? because everything is either like, oh, Travis Hunter's one-on-one, boom, or this guy's open, boom, or it's, oh, I wanted to throw it down the middle, I didn't quite love it, so I just came underneath and got the check down, right? Jaxson Dart, you get to see a lot every game of him going through progressions and making the right read, and I think those are things that the NFL people will like, again, because they're going to go, he could play the position, he knows what he's looking at, he's reading coverages the right way.
You do, obviously, one of the things you do well is separating the quarterback from the scheme and the situation around him. He did have 1,500 rushing yards in 3 seasons at Ole Miss, probably a function of what they did offensively or tried to do.
Yeah, right.
PFF said this, much of his success at Ole Miss felt scheme dependent. And then we have Jendi from the UK who sent this in to you, had a similar question. Big fan from the UK, question on quarterback prospects who come from some version of the Art Briles veer and shoot offense that operates almost exclusively out of wide splits and simple reads. Will quarterbacks from that scheme inherently struggle in the NFL, or is this similar to the air raid where there just hadn't been any legit first-round talents from that scheme until the emergence of guys like Goff, Baker, Mahomes, etc.? Jendi, thanks for writing that in. That's almost like one of those notes you see when someone's apologizing.
No,
for something,
that was in depth. That really was. I think it's a little bit more of the case of just we haven't had the right guys there yet and all of that, right? I think it's a little bit more of that. It's a good offense, obviously. They've had good talent there. There's definitely, a few plays and throws every game where you're just like, oh, shit, Lane Kiffin just dialed up the right play. That guy's wide open down the middle. Touchdown, okay? A lot of good throws, let me just say, but very few wow throws. That would be the other thing, too. There was more wow throws for me for Shedeur when I went, oh, wow, he threw a rifle in there with people around it, blah, blah, blah.
Did you expect to see more from Jaxson? Because you did like him at the Combine, the way he threw.
His Combine, he was really good. I feel like, I think the Combine made me hopeful, but the film confirmed what I thought, I think, watching him on TV the last 2 years, right? When I had people asking me even like a few months ago, what do you think of Jaxson Dart? I was like, I like him, but I never was like, oh, wow, I'm watching something special here, right? That was never my feel as watching him on a Saturday. And again, a lot of good stuff, certainly. But yeah, I think the arm had a little more power than I thought, right? Does not use the legs enough to get out of the pocket or on power throws, right? Will throw the ball flat-footed and not pop the legs underneath him too much, and that is why too many deep balls and power throws fall flat of the target, right? There's just a little bit of like, he just stands there and he tries to do it with his upper body and his arm, and you go, man, that ball needed 5 more yards or it needed 2 or 3 more miles per hour, and that would have been beautiful, but it didn't get that. Right, he pops his legs on some of those intermediate throws that I was just talking about, and he's usually pinpoint with all of that. I do like his touch. He can flick the ball. I talked about his mid-range throwing ability, a loose, flexible arm. Right, he throws it pretty well on the run, but on the run is not going to be his game. He's definitely the worst at getting out of trouble for the people we just talked about. Right, he can run from 5 to 10 from time to time, but he's not going to make people miss in the pocket. Good player, good arm, not great, has played a lot of football. Not sure there is one wow trait, right? In last year's class, he'd be 6 or 7, certainly, right? And I just wrote he's not in the same class as Cam Ward again.
So we have a chart that shows his mock draft stock as it's gone through the months here. He was outside the top 100 back in December. You can see it has slowly risen here. Now he is solidly end of first, early second round.
To me, it's like, who are guys that were drafted at the top of the second? Will Levis, Jimmy Garoppolo.
Derek Carr.
Right, Derek Carr, right. Guys, again, there's something missing. Right? We like him, but it's something missing. Will Levis, we like all the physical traits and his muscles and the arm power, but there's some throws that aren't quite there. Jimmy Garoppolo, he makes a lot of good decisions and throws the ball accurately, but there's never a real pop on the ball to make an explosive throw, right? Derek Carr, it was a little bit more of those lines like, hey, he's good, he does a lot of things, but is there a special trait about his game? And I think that's where we are, and that's kind of where I vision it. And I think it's risen because of the things you've talked about, with 2 things we've talked about. One, all your stuff you said about Shedeur Sanders and people being scared, Shedeur, Dion, all that.
Yeah.
And then 2, because of lack of good quarterbacks, I think people, or top-end quarterbacks, people are going, hey, at least this guy's got NFL size he played against NFL quality competition, and you get to see him play NFL style of football game after game after game within the pocket. And I think that's going to make some evaluators feel warm and cozy.
He seems like a kind of guy who would be destined to be in the Simms 20-ish ranks in your top 40 quarterback countdown.
Yeah, I mean,
because that's where Jimmy Garoppolo lived a lot. And,
right.
It kind of seems
could
like
be in that. Could be in that range.
What's his ceiling? What's his ceiling?
His ceiling is that he really becomes like an elite decision maker, elite accuracy, and just always knows where to go with the ball. Like a Kirk Cousins would be like what I would say.
Okay.
Of that nature. Might never be better than like the 8th or 9th quarterback in football,
Okay.
right?
But that's still
But you can
something.
damn win. And if you got a good team, you can go to the Super Bowl with that. Right? But yes, I don't think there's one attribute about his game where you're just going to go, if me and you sat down and broke him down, you'd go, oh, I like that. Oh, I like that. But you never would go, holy, I can't get over how awesome he is at this, right? There's not that. And that's what's missing.
I don't know if this helps or hurts his ranking depending on your love of Star Wars, but he is a Star Wars fan.
I know, I've heard.
Apparently, he has talked about that. And so here is Jaxson Dart talking about his love of all things Star Wars, I guess.
Possibly the most important question of the week. Anakin Skywalker?
I knew you were
I didn't
Really?
know exactly where that
Really?
was going.
I thought he was
You
going
seemed pretty
there.
serious before you asked me that, so I didn't know where we were going.
He's the
There he
bad
is.
guy.
Look at
He's
him.
the bad
Yeah,
guy.
there we go. Look, I've been a Star Wars fan ever since I can remember. And early on, Anakin was my favorite character. So me being able to pay a little bit of tribute to that was a lot of fun, and just kind of show your love and just be a kid out there a little bit.
You know how it ended for him, right?
Yeah. That's not how it's going to end.
You're
for me.
gonna run
dominated the universe for a
ending.
while. I don't know what you're talking about. For a little while, he had a great run. You can't run things forever.
That's good. You hear him say, he's like, that's how it's going to end for me, bald and with a scar on his head. That's going to be devastating.
It's funny. He's got a great personality.
Seemed like it.
Right? He does. He definitely has quarterback aura and a charismatic way that you certainly think he could lead a locker room. And the fact that he was at USC, Ole Miss, right? You certainly don't hear anything bad about him that way. I would be shocked if anything bad came out about him. I like him a lot. He can be an NFL starting quarterback, right? Just not sure how good, how great. I hope he is great. I hope he proves me wrong. And yeah, ultimately, I think that's like kind of what I said. End of the first round, start of the second, really. But is there a team that gets a little antsy at the end of the first and tries to trade up and get him? I don't know. That's going to be interesting to see. But I really think he will be at the top of the first round on day 2, top of the second round, day 2.
And a great football name too, Jaxson Dart.
Right.
But he told you his little brother even has a better one, Diesel Dart. He goes, I'm a little jealous of that one. That should have been my name.
That's pretty strong. Those parents, they're outside
Well
the box
done.
thinkers on the names there. That's for
Diesel
sure.
Dart's first rounder. That's a first round name, right?
Diesel
I think.
Dart. Can he be a run? He can't be a quarterback.
That's
Though.
true.
He
That's
might
a
have to
good
be
point.
something else.
That's a
I
good
mean, I
point.
don't know. He's got to be a running back. It sounds like he's got to be something that is like a physical type of player. with
Yeah,
that
or
name.
just a truck driver. Maybe not football's not his thing.
Yeah. Thanks for watching Chris Simms Unbuttoned. Hey, just because the season's over, it doesn't mean we're over. We ain't going anywhere. The NFL never dies.
We're staying right here. Hit subscribe. We got every NFL move. We'll react to that. Plus, Chris has got 4,719 draft prospect profiles to do.
Thanks again for watching. Subscribe. You know where to find us. Peace out, homies.